no credit for the designer of the ballroom,
Yes.
but the renovation, the sensitive renovation, yada yada, I'll
The
take care.
temple was gorgeous.
Yeah, it was a Scandinavian architect.
Not to mention that the organ was incredible.
The organ, the bema is a Louise Nevelson sculpture. I don't know if you know Louise Nevelson. Well, if you look up Louise Nevelson, she's a major artist, and she was commissioned to do the
Hey,
event.
how are you? Someone sitting here?
So,
No, that's what you. So I sat, first I sat in the back, and then I sat
Did you sign?
to the left. The left was much bigger.
You see this? No, it's saying that it's never been done. It says parking yes, and then it's saying no parking. They've been getting. Yeah, I think if you say that, I mean, no one knows about this 20 feet business, but if it says, right? Yeah, but I don't know the state law. You cannot park within 20 feet.
Of a what? Of a crosswalk?
Yeah,
20 feet?
20. It says that the state says.
No, I'm thinking of Everfresh, the crosswalk over.
This is actually a ridiculous situation because the sign says it's legal
Park,
to park.
right. So that's the thing. So they should not be getting a ticket.
Correct.
Doesn't roll down, it doesn't roll it up there. I roll it down. You know,
Right.
sometimes it's hard to, because I heard you say close to not now.
Right.
But I know that people say, oh, no, no, if it's.
There should be some mark on, you know, yeah, I mean, if you don't want people, because I've seen people park within the, not in the crosswalk, but, right, from that sign. Right, which is about, I would say maybe 5 or 6 feet from that crosswalk.
We have to clarify that's not.
Well, I think there's.
It is state law.
Yeah.
Just because.
This is a visual marking.
Okay, so then.
So I don't. So people have been getting a ticket. It's a recent thing that people got a ticket.
Yes, well, since the new code enforcers came on, the new code, it's not just Wanda, it's the other one also. I don't think that's her signature, but
Kristen also.
that's Wanda? Wanda.
So I think we should tell Wanda, but tell the court to dismiss
Yeah.
these.
But, no, but we could share with them the information.
And
No. We could talk to the court. I could talk to the prosecutors.
yeah, but I think it's a waste of the time to come here for this. It's our fault. Either you have to remove that.
You can't just, yeah.
Because that's not
Well,
right.
in what ways do the sign needs to, I mean, if the law
Because the sign
states
says you can. The sign says
You
that
can
you can park from here.
Anyway,
The state law
it's pretty late.
indicates that you
but
cannot.
I thought the
no one
sign
knows that.
over,
Yeah, it does.
takes,
It
trumps
does.
the,
Right, it does.
so if the sign trumps it, then it seems like even if it went to court, it would be okay.
Okay, Mike. Okay.
For you, you want me to say?
Okay. To stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is not. No, this is not it. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone had a nice and safe holiday. Happy New Year's to everyone who celebrates the New Year. I can't get mine on. You want to start out? Let me see if I can get this. That's what I did first. Louis on vacation. Louis on that conference. Okay, so no one's here from Public Works.
I spoke to him, and he said he has nothing else to add.
Anything add from Building Department? Okay. Okay, we have a bunch of new businesses, nothing old business. Okay. So this is on Berkshire and Croydon. So there was a discussion that if we do need to install a three-way stop sign or one-way stop sign on Croydon and Berkshire, I think this is becoming a common issue with people driving and speeding. People driving, is this working? Oh, yeah, it's working. Yeah, it's working. People driving much faster than they should be driving and not adhering to the speeding speed limits in our village. It has become a problem that it's very difficult to fix. Some people believe that the stop signs can help. Some believe that it won't. But with that, I would like to just open it for discussion if the board believes that we do need to have a three-way stop sign or a one-way stop sign. He's the one who put it on. Yeah. This is
Paul
mine.
Abraham.
Carl Abraham. Should I try it this way? Is it working? Good.
Hi.
Carl Abraham, 3 Baker Hill Road.
Hey, Abraham, could you fix that for me?
Are you taking away from my 3 minutes?
No, we haven't started. I appreciate that you actually respect the 3 minutes, Carl.
I don't really respect it, but it's 3 minutes. Okay.
Can you just hold it?
That's okay. There's only a few of us here.
Yeah.
You want me to hold it?
No, because we need it for the.
I can hold it.
Good.
It's okay.
That's
Is that
good.
okay?
Perfect. Thank you.
Good. Let me explain the rationale involved here. Many years ago, we had a large number of accidents at the corner of Baker Hill and Berkshire Road where people would be coming back and forth from Baker Hill. And at the intersection, people weren't stopping. We had no stop signs. And I petitioned the board at that time, for the first time, because of no stop signs, that there be a stop sign. And I had many of the neighbors come, including a congresswoman, I guess, from Albany, and request that a sign be put there. Okay. Since that sign has been put there, I guess it's been a 4-way stop sign over 20 years. Contrary to what you're saying, there's never been an accident there of any significance. Okay. Now, what we do find is that individuals driving on Berkshire or Baker Hill, they slow down and pass the stop sign without stopping. Okay, if there's a police car present, they give out a lot of tickets when they're present. But most of the time, they do slow down, which is really the objective. What we're finding on Croydon and Berkshire is that cars heading towards Croydon are traveling at rates of 45 to 55. And I've measured, I have a instrument the same as the police, up to 60 miles an hour. We find cars rounding Croydon onto Berkshire at rates of over 40 miles an hour. They make a wide turn and then come back in the correct lane. I've had experiences where I was walking my dogs and an individual came around a wide turn, and at least I can estimate at least 40 miles an hour, and I yelled out and he stopped and he called me an idiot. So anyhow, I've had another experience heading west on Croydon, making a left turn on Berkshire, and a car was going so fast that it cut in front of me and then headed west on Croydon. The objective of placing stop signs is not only hoping that everybody stops, but it does address the safety situation of slowing cars down is really what we're looking for. So if we place a stop sign heading east and west on Croydon at the end of Berkshire and a stop sign at the end of Berkshire heading to Croydon, I think we will reduce the probability of cars coming in contact with one another. And also, most of the people, because there's no sidewalks there, they walk the streets. So we're then extending the zone of danger to individuals that are walking the streets in addition to the vehicles. That's why I'm suggesting that the three-way stop sign be placed at the intersection of Croydon and Berkshire. It's worked on Baker Hill and Berkshire, and there's no question that it will reduce the risk of an accident occurring at that particular intersection.
Can you just point out on the map what you're talking about?
Sure.
So
It's right after the curve, right?
Berkshire and Radnor approaching Croydon, right? They're uncontrolled intersections.
Right there. It's completely uncontrolled with
There
no
should be a sign-
sidewalks.
There probably should be
Right,
stop
and there's-
signs
it's
at the
right
end of
after the
Berkshire and
curve.
Radnor.
Yeah, there's no stops. There's no sidewalks.
Stop sign here at Radnor either.
Right. So
Well,
we should
The,
talk
the,
to-
it's the, it had, Berkshire has become a main thoroughfare because the individuals are heading towards a firehouse, and when they get through with the firehouse, some of their young kids, they race out of there and come down Baker Hill Berkshire to Baker Hill. And it's just, and you can see that since there's no sidewalks, the people are walking the streets. People coming home from services are wearing vests now for the first time. I've noticed this for the first time with stripes, with reflective stripes. I mean, they know it's dangerous, but that's where they have to walk.
You see, I can see, I mean, I don't know if a
He's only
stop
talking
sign
about
on
a stop
Berkshire,
sign on Berkshire. And
but you meaning like going
yes,
going west.
going north.
going north on Berkshire,
And
but that's
Radnor.
what
Don't
would
you want one on
this-
Croydon also, though?
No, you can have a stop sign at every block.
Well,
I
the
mean, you
thing
might
is,
want one,
when
but-
people are racing, see, I'm concerned about that.
As they come around the curb without stopping, that's the problem. They come around the curb. May I point this out to you,
that's what I'm thinking.
if I may?
Yeah.
They come around the
Stop sign
street.
there would be
Excuse
okay.
me.
But we don't need on Radnor also.
You see what happens here? If you take a look at this, what they do is they come around on Croydon, they make a wide turn and then come back. They come around this way on Croydon, make a wide turn. I was walking with two dogs, and the individual came here, made a wide turn. I'm in the middle of the street with two dogs. Made a wide turn, went almost to the curb, and then I yelled out. He had an open window. Nothing occurred. He just stopped, and I said, "You're going too fast." And he says, "You shouldn't be there with two dogs." Okay. Anyhow, this is what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
So they speed from
no
Baker Hill. They speed up to Croydon. I'm telling you, 45 to 55 miles an hour. There's no sidewalk. There's a sidewalk right here, and it stops here. There's no sidewalk on this side of the street on Croydon at all.
Is there a stop sign on Radnor? And
No,
no stop sign.
nothing. There's nothing.
Right,
But
so-
we don't have that problem here. We don't have. However,
Stop
in
sign.
order to alleviate it, why don't we have crosswalks painted on each of the streets along here? That would be that would be
There's
advisable
no
also.
sidewalk at Radnor.
Pardon me?
There's no sidewalk
No,
at
Radnor
Radnor.
has sidewalk.
Right? Oh no, there's a sidewalk now.
Radnor has
There's a
sidewalk.
sidewalk here. Okay, they put in a sidewalk here. No, there's no sidewalk here. There's no sidewalk here. This is where I walk the dogs. This is a sidewalk. The sidewalk is here. There's no sidewalk here at all.
There is a sidewalk.
After this driveway here, there's no sidewalk.
Yeah.
So people are walking the streets.
We have half a block with no sidewalk between Radnor and Berkshire, and the sidewalk is everywhere else.
You know, to have a stop sign on Berkshire going toward the tennis
Croydon.
courts, I mean, they have to stop or slow down.
No
They
one
cannot-
stops.
I know, but they have to slow down. You can't, otherwise you're gonna go right-
They don't slow down. At about 35 to 40 miles an hour, if they make a wide turn, and I'm telling you, I've been cut off coming on Croydon, making a left turn to Berkshire. An individual cut me off, was going about 35, 40 miles an hour, and then continued to his left. I slowed down because I know it's dangerous.
Okay.
I mean, what does it cost to put up the stop signs?
No,
What
no,
does
it's
it
not the
cost to be
cost.
safe?
It's not the cost, and I do agree with having, you see, the problem is the people don't drive safe. Now, I don't know if the right answer is a stop sign, a yield sign, a
Well,
cop.
let me
No,
put
but
this.
we can discuss this with
right,
the,
we
with
can.
the DPW.
Right.
Yeah,
Or actually the engineer.
let me
We'll
put
get to you,
this.
Rebecca. One
I,
second.
I, I
We all
deal.
saw your hand. Just a minute.
I deal with. I 45 years. I deal with risk analysis all over the world. I dealt with risk analysis here. The benefits outweigh the cost of putting up the stop
Okay.
signs.
Okay, we're gonna take it under consideration, and by
What
the
kind of
next meeting we'll have an answer.
consideration?
No, I think, listen,
I just don't understand
Carl,
this.
Carl, we're not disagreeing with you,
Oh,
okay? But there are things, we need to discuss it with Louis Massaro, okay?
I think we should discuss it with the traffic engineer, I
No,
mean,
no.
and Louis.
But we're not disagreeing with you. We could have an answer for you by the next meeting on this.
Well, I don't.
It's been like this
I
for
know-
45 years, but we can have I mean, can we have a week, 2 weeks to come back to you? Okay,
I just don't know.
we, absolutely. We
And
understand that.
you're dealing with individuals that have little or no experience in risk analysis or safety. Okay? They don't have a back. Lou doesn't have a back. He's a nice person.
You see, the way we have to look at it, if there's no stop sign on Radnor, if there was a stop sign at Radnor, it wouldn't make sense to put another stop sign a block away. But if there's no stop sign on Radnor, I don't know what I forgot what the next
I think
street
you should
is.
install them on Croydon. I think Croydon and Berkshire and
but
Croydon and.
I agree, but I still want to discuss it.
Oh, there's a stop sign on the next block, by the way.
Which block?
The next one.
Essex.
No,
Yes.
there should be from the.
So
from
there
the-
should be every other one.
There should be from the minor road going into the major road, a stop sign. But the question that we can't really, I don't think, answer
Let me
tonight-
ask you this. With your background,
Yes.
why do you conclude that and not on Croydon? My background is more extensive than yours.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I didn't say we shouldn't have it.
You just said.
I just said, are we allowed to have the time to flesh out the idea until the next meeting?
Maybe
That's-
I just heard you incorrectly. You said there should be a stop sign at the end of Berkshire.
And
Berkshire.
Radnor
Oh,
going
Radnor.
into Croydon.
okay. But what about Croydon itself?
Because
where the people
placing
make-
stop signs on the major roads might be more of an issue that we need to discuss further. And we will discuss it, and we will have an answer by the next meeting.
I would like to know how you differentiate the speeding from Croydon to Berkshire and from Berkshire to Croydon as one an issue.
Did I say I'm
an issue and
differentiating
one
them?
is not.
I'm not differentiating. I'm saying one is more of a major road and one is a tributary road. That's all.
Well, we know that.
Okay.
But they both create a risk, and we're trying to eliminate that risk for people that are walking in that area.
I am not disagreeing with you, and I think that we're inclined to put the stop signs there, but we.
Thank you. We'll
we need
stop
to
there.
discuss
I
it.
agree with you.
So,
Okay,
so I think.
I agree
so-
with you.
so
Thank you.
I think the bottom, Carl, I think the bottom line is that we do believe that I personally believe that it's the right thing to put it on Croydon and possibly Berkshire, but just to flush it out with the traffic engineers to make sure that we're not missing anything, we're just gonna take a couple of weeks.
Oh, is that what it is? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, now you can speak.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Rebecca Rosenblatt Gilliard. I'm thinking that this is such a narrow approach to village safety. And I think it's lovely that someone's concerned about the corner that they're near, but what we have in this village is a lot of people who are concerned about the corners that they're near. So I don't think you decide to put a stop sign there because someone comes forward and says, put a stop sign there, or 2, or 3, or on the corner of Hicks, which already has 4, and we can't even, I mean, the only way we could increase the stop signs at Hicks would be to have 6, because no one's paying attention to the signage. So I'm just suggesting that even though the previous speaker wanted you to decide immediately, I think you have to base whatever decision you make on some overall larger plan for safety in the community, and you actually do get maybe someone to bring in someone who is an expert to tell you where the issues are. That's the first thing. The second thing is that, right, so we have people want is really not what you should govern this board. You're the higher minds of the community. You're the people who are supposed to take that small issue and make it into the issue in which you're deciding safety for everyone. I don't know if you were aware of this, but years ago, England did a study where they reduced signage. First they increased signage, then they reduced it, and I read the study. I think it may have come out of some publication at MIT, but it's too long ago for me to remember, so don't hold me to it. And they discovered that if they removed signage selectively, they reduced accidents by 25%. Now, maybe the British population drives differently than the American population does, but I don't think that it behooves you as a board to make a decision based on, like, take it out of the air. It looks like that corner's busy. Let's put a stop sign there, or 3 stop signs there, or this person attests to this or that. I know at the corner of Hicks I know what's going on at the corner of Hicks. Young people aren't paying attention to the signage. We now have the 6th precinct backed. We know we have a new head of the 6th precinct. Why don't you ask them to develop a plan that for, let's say, a 3-month period, they do spot enforcement all over the community at stop signs, issue tickets. Maybe when people start spending money and start realizing that it can get points on their licenses, maybe people will slow down. What you said, Pedram, is true. It's the people who are speeding. The signage is there and they're still ignoring it. So if they're ignoring 4 stop signs at the corner of Hicks, are they going to pay attention to 1 or 2 or 3 stop signs at this corner? The answer from me is, well, it's up to you. So if the 4-way stop sign is not doing it, I can't picture how any other stop sign will do it. This is a bigger job. This is a more encompassing, thoughtful process. And I don't disagree with people that it is dangerous. But people walking in the street where there's no sidewalks really is a tangential issue to people running stop signs, people not paying attention to signage. And I think you need to hand this problem over to some people that when you hire and work in concert with the county police department. Thank you.
Okay, so I think all of those were mentioned by this board. The police commissioner was contacted about 2 weeks ago, and I did ask him to do spot policing in different areas that the accidents are of significant that people have brought to our attention. And it's very interesting that the same people that were saying that the people are speeding and passing stop signs complain to me that them or their friends have gotten tickets at that stop sign. So regardless, I do believe that it has to do with the people that are driving. Maybe they are getting more distracted by their phones, by their texting, WhatsApp, whatever. There's so many things, so many distractions in the car that people may not pay attention to the stop sign. As far as the stop sign on Forest Row and Hicks, very interesting. My wife actually mentioned to me that the stop sign is not on the curb going west. It's actually off the curb by about 3 feet. And that's the only stop sign that I noticed that is being off a little bit. When you go driving west on Hicks, that stop sign is not on the curb. So when you're driving, you shouldn't be driving that fast, but if you're driving fast enough, you're not going to be able to see that stop sign because it is somehow behind the trees. And by the time you get to it, it's already too late, and you're probably passing that stop sign. I did speak to Louis. Louis said he's going to look into it and see if he can put it on the curb. But as far as everybody else driving, I don't know, and I told this to Dr. Abrahams, I don't know if the stop signs are going to really bring more attention. I think the speed signs can probably have a better effect. They're more expensive, but I have discussed it with Abraham to see if we can actually purchase a few and put it in certain areas that people drive fast. Because the moment these lights start flashing, I do believe that people slow down. So it's the question between stop signs versus yield sign versus some speed detectors that they tell the person how fast they're driving. Maybe we can decrease the speeding. But again, short of changing the attitude of the drivers, I don't know what else the village can do, but we will look into it.
I have 2 points to make. I just want to be heard for 1 second. First of all, we don't necessarily need to engage traffic engineers for each and every situation, especially if there's more expedient than others. There are national and state guidelines for the placement of certain traffic control devices at intersections. We could go by that in the interim. Number two, since our last meeting where we discussed, I don't know if it was the last meeting or the one before, where we discussed the intersection of Hicks and Forest Row, I met with our village justice, and I think a crazy amount of tickets have been issued at that intersection. The number 40 or 60 is popping into my head in 1 month. It might even be 2 weeks. Yeah, well, I'll get the exact number from the court. But we had a tremendous number of summonses issued for people running the stop sign at that intersection. So,
but one thing I wanted to say also is I think I always welcome and encourage people to come and say which intersection they believe it's a dangerous intersection. And I do appreciate Dr. Abraham and other people that have come in with different areas. Because the moment I don't know those areas, I don't know if we all know different areas. But if you come and say this intersection is dangerous, he says this intersection is dangerous, then I can tell the police commissioner, please police these intersections because these are the areas that we're getting significant number of complaints about. And it has worked. I mean,
the fact that so many summonses were issued at that intersection does tend to confirm the complaints of the residents at that intersection, that there were quite a number of violators. And what typically happens once you step up enforcement like that is that you do get compliance, at least in the interim. In the case of Kings Point, they have set up police at the intersection of Hicks and Remsen. They've been there for years at the same intersection, and people get tickets. People get multiple tickets at that intersection because they
If you would please, I think that I'm suggesting something that isn't, I think that all of what you said is, I think all of what you said is valuable and certainly addressing the problem. What I'd really like is if you were to, and obviously you do what you choose, but I think that if you approached Nassau County Police Department and you said, could you present us with a plan showing the way in which you were going to do selective locations throughout a 3-month period, and ask for you to be in a loop on a very serious approach to a very serious problem, because people are coming to you about this intersection and that, but there are people who are not coming to you. So therefore, you need the police department to sit on stop signs and then report back to you what exactly their activity was at those locations, because then you have a better handle on this village. And I think that it comes down to you. It's not a matter of, well, I have some stop signs and maybe I'll put up some speed signs, and that's not a bad idea either. But the problem is that it's approaching it in a piecemeal fashion, and I think you have to start with enforcement in a plan. If you get a plan from Nassau County, not just please help us out here, Because quite frankly, I'm assuming you can't tell us, and they haven't told you exactly what they're doing. And you need some control of it in our village. Anyway,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
May I just reply to the prior speaker?
Okay, I started out by saying that many years ago, I guess over 20 years ago, we had no stop sign at the corner of Berkshire and Baker Hill. And we had many accidents. People ended up on my property across the street, trying to avoid coming in contact with other cars. And I petitioned the board at that time. I got signatures from all of the neighbors, and all of the neighbors showed up. And we ended up getting the 4 stop signs. And we ended up eliminating the problem that we had. Even though cars slowed down, they slowed down, which is really the objective. We would love to have everybody stop and obey the law. It doesn't happen. When I'm out at night and I'm walking the dogs, I see many cars just passing the stop signs, but they all slow down. Now, I've been here since 1950, just to let the prior speaker know. And over the years, the population and traffic has changed. And most recently, I have observed with my background, extensive background in safety and traffic and associated problems, that there's a significant increase in the number of cars going up and down Berkshire Road. And the same thing with it, when you look at Croydon, you can see cars speed from the turn where the fire station is located towards the end of where the tennis courts are. And they're not going 20 miles an hour. Those cars are really moving, and people are in the streets. There are children in the streets, walking near the sidewalk, near the edge of the street, and there's no sidewalk. The only way that we can improve that area with reference to safety, contrary to the prior speaker, because I have studied this, and I know this area from 1950 to the present time. Things have changed, and this is a dangerous area. And all I ask is that it doesn't take much to decide how to reduce the traffic. And I'm sure there's problems in the rest of many areas of the village. I'm pointing this out. I don't live in the other areas. I don't have time, and have no interest in any of the other areas. I have an interest in where I live and the neighborhood that I live in. And I think we can make it much safer by putting in the 3 signs.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
I'd like to just say something. Maybe you could send out to the residents of the village a reminder that on November the 7th at the Great Neck House, they are having a traffic study there. Encourage your residents to go. Ellen Birbaum is hosting it, and the police will be there. So it's at 7:30 at the Great Neck House. And
Okay.
if more residents go and voice their concerns, then, might help.
So let it be noted. Right. We can just put it on the website. So, thanks. Moving on to new business B, request for reinstallation of the fence behind the bagel hut. Do you have something to say about that?
I've spoken to the one individual who seems to make things happen over there, Steve, who is the owner of the bagel hut. And I told him that
Mike. Just get the mic.
You really can't hear him?
I told him that what we need to happen over there is to take down the existing fence, put up a 6-foot vinyl fence, and replace the broken railroad ties. And I believe that would correct that situation. There are other problems there, but I think that's one that we need to address.
So I know that they have removed the fence. The chain link fence is not there anymore. The only fence standing is the wooden fence that is installed by the neighbor. Now, the issue is also that there are trees, they're not real trees, but there are bushes and shrubs that have grown that grew between the two fences now on the, I would say, on the western part of the currently existing fence. I don't know if you can, and I don't know what the law is, if they can remove that fence, the wooden fence that is standing and is also crooked, and they can put one fence so nothing grows in between, and I think it's going to protect both the neighbor and the businesses. I don't know if we need to have two fence.
No, Mayor, that's what I proposed to him. Just take down that fence, put up one vinyl fence, and it'll be fine.
Have you spoken to the neighbor to see if he's willing to give up his fence?
There's only one fence there. There's only the wood.
No, there were two fences. There was a wooden fence and a chain link fence.
I have assigned a permission for the board by the neighbor to eliminate their fence and just put up.
You can't hear?
The public can't hear if they're listening on the internet, I'm sure.
I said the most important part already.
Say it again, Carl, for the record.
I'm only kidding. I have in my hands, and you're welcome to have it, two identical copies of the neighbor signing an agreement to allow you to remove their fence and have the one vinyl fence.
Right. Well, that's something that Len will take care of with the businesses. I just don't know where we are holding with with Steve coming up with.
Just leave it there.
With Steve coming up with the proposal to put a fence up.
You know, Steve is a good guy, but the problem is that the other people there don't want to give him money to do these things. So we helped Steve out. We gave out notices of violation to all the property owners, and if they do not want to do it, we'll issue summonses. So there are issues there. There are property maintenance issues. There is a driveway that's all broken up. There is the fence. There's
Sidewalk.
And the sidewalk, but that's another discussion.
Okay. You think we have an answer by next meeting?
I believe we will.
Okay. That area has been an eyesore for a long time. So there has been many people, senior people, that go to the. Moving on to item C, that go to the park and play tennis and do other sports, even for walking. And there has been a request for placing handicap parking spots closer to the entrance for the seniors, possible people who may have handicaps, to be able to go in and out of the park without having to walk. And in certain areas. Now, I do believe that may be a great idea. I spoke to Louis. Louis didn't seem to have a problem with putting two handicap parking spots by the entrance on the East Park Circle. I believe that's what it is. 8th Park Place. I'm sorry.
Mayor, could that be identified?
No, on the same side.
Is that inside a municipal parking lot?
No.
No, it's on
It's
our
on the
road.
road.
On your roadway?
On the roadway. It would be on. It's on the east side of East Park Place. If you could just point it out, Abraham. I actually think that. I think that there should be at least one or two more handicap spots
So those
on
are village roadways?
Village roadways.
And are
on
there
Fairview.
painted stalls in the roadways or unpainted park wherever you can?
Well, right now there's nothing painted, so we can possibly put two, and then just assign it to. There's another. I think, based on what I heard from Louis, there's one other place that the roadway has a handicap painted area. So I think we can have 2 on the park, which I think I've seen many parks have it.
In front of 444, there's a handicap one.
Right.
444
Mhm.
middle of the road.
Mhm.
No, but would we consider also one on Fairview?
So put 2 on this side and 1 on that side.
I would say.
Fairview is ours, yeah.
Mhm.
Mr. Mayor, so when you talk about 2 handicap spots, typically they would be, you're looking at about 9, 18, 27 feet, because there's a stall in between that actually is the area where you can get out of the car. It's designed for vans.
No, these are parallel parked. These are not
Well, you-
side by side. They're
No,
parallel
he's
parked
saying
spots.
getting out,
typical-
maybe to get the wheelchair from the trunk.
This is what is a typical handicap spot, and if you're going to put 2 of them, that is typically the way it's done.
Mhm.
It's 2 back to back like this.
They're 2
not
side by
parallel.
side.
No.
No, not side by side.
We don't have stall spots over there. These are street spots. They're parallel parked.
Then they're not technically handicap spots.
No, you can make handicap spots on the street.
You just want to say that no one else should be parking there.
Nobody else could park in those particular spots.
Not really handicapped, but they can look like tents.
They'd be close to the entrance. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just put. Yeah, you can just put.
It's not a big deal.
No, it's not a big deal. We can. I think, and I like Bart's idea to put 2 on the east side and 1 on Fairview.
north.
Um,
Fairview has 3 different entrances.
You calling for executive session?
May I have an executive
Yes,
session?
okay.
Hopefully one that lasts less than 2 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
Could I comment first so you can discuss something that I said?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. Rebecca Rosenblatt, Hilliard.
Use the microphone because some people can't hear you.
I don't shout loud enough. Okay. The east side of Memorial
Only for
Field
one person.
is, at this point, has become a problem for the Park District because of all the parking on both sides. Now, it's only a 2-lane street, but what's been happening, when I said to you before, develop an overall plan for our village, I was really taking into account a great many things that people are talking about that are going on, and the issue of Croydon and Hicks are just 2 pieces of a much larger issue. If you drive across Memorial Field, I go by that tonight to come here and go home, but I also go past it quite often. Invariably, people are parked where they're not supposed to on the west side of the east roadway and on the other side of the street. So the middle of the road is only 1 lane then. And that parking has been happening, this is brand new. This is only the last year or 2 where parents don't want to park on the other side of the street, get out of their cars and walk across the street and get their children. They want to park right next to the entrance and leave the engines running so that their children can come out. And there's a whole line of cars. So if you're going to discuss where handicap spaces are going to go, you're going to have to take into consideration that maybe that's going to be violated as much as your stop signs. There's an overall issue here with people not adhering to the law, people not understanding what is called for.
I tell you quickly, I'm sorry to interrupt you
Yeah,
because there's a difference between enforcing parking and enforcing moving violations. We have our own enforcers that can enforce the parking. So if someone parks on a handicap zone,
Or in a no standing zone.
right,
So
they
you'll
will
have
get ticketed by the people that we hired.
Okay,
We
so
do
what
not
if they
have.
do it after 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon? Who's patrolling it?
No, we have
24 hours.
we have shifts. We have
There's shifts.
We have
Okay,
different shifts. They
so
go
then-
overnight.
So then I guess what I'm asking,
And I just want to tell you, it's a
Yeah.
lot easier than Nassau County Police because we tell them where to go. We can't really tell Nassau County what to do. We can ask, but they're not.
But we can ask specifically to the county what we want. And then
We
we take the
can.
enforcement people, you're saying, and we say to them, you need to go check the Park District schedule for what's going on at Memorial Field, and you need to be there during these hours so people understand.
We can do that. We have 2 new parking enforcers who have been doing.
It's unsafe, though.
Okay, I understand it's unsafe, but you also don't want to make the village a place where you go to drop off your child and Memorial Field to play basketball in the afternoon.
No.
You could clearly hear it.
No,
And
let me
also like going
I-
around
So,
monitoring.
you do me a favor.
When you drop off a child, presumably you're in your car.
Yeah,
Okay, so you're not going to get a ticket in that circumstance.
that's what I'm saying. but
Right, that's not what I'm talking
Okay, but
about.
I'm just saying somebody.
I think, just for everyone to be clear, the reason, I agree with one of the people here that we need to all speak in the microphone is because we are we are broadcasting this live, so people won't hear what you say, and then they hear my response. It looks silly.
Right.
But
How about if I give it to her?
yeah, that's fine.
Because I've said what I think.
Okay.
And it has nothing to do with people dropping off. It has to do with people picking up only.
Well,
Okay.
regardless, if they leave their cars, they will be
Illegal
ticketed.
spot. They're
If
gonna be
you
ticketed.
are waiting to pick up somebody, then that's a whole different story. So we just don't want people to, and I tell you, I see that a lot. People leave their cars double park, so the person who wants to leave can't even leave. That's really being a bad neighbor. Okay, with that, we're gonna go to the executive session.
A lot of bad neighbors. Because we have a lot of bad neighbors.
So after the discussion, I think should go ahead with any discussion on this with the parking, the handicap parkings. Do we need a motion for this?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. A motion to direct the Department of Public Works to arrange for the creation of two handicap parking spaces
on the east Park Place.
The east side of Park
east,
Place.
right?
east side of Park Place.
East side of Park Place or west side of Park Place?
The east side of Park Place. I think it's
In
called
front
East
of the
Park
entrance.
Place. Yeah.
In front of the entrance.
It's called East Park Place?
Right,
Yeah,
guys.
so it's the east side of East Park Place in front of the entrance, to the extent that it's not interfering with the hydrant or other parking.
Yeah, but that's going to be the west side of it. It's going to be the west side.
West side, it's on the side next to the park.
No, there's no parking.
There's no parking on the side next, on the west
It's the
side.
east side of East Park
Of
Place.
east side. Okay. There's no parking. Okay, so it's going to be the right. Okay.
East side.
What is it?
No, he's saying that there's no parking on the west side.
There's no parking on the west side.
The west side is the side of the park.
The reason that there's no parking over there is because there are kids coming out of the park and crossing the street. And it's a danger when a small kid comes out between cars, especially an SUV.
Okay. Okay. So it's going to be on the west side.
Right. The east
On the east side of the
East Park Place.
The
Two
east side of East Park Place,
Right.
2 handicap spaces.
And then one on the south side of
Fairview.
Fairview.
One on the
By
south
the-
side of Fairview.
Next to the next to, we have to pick an entrance. There are
By
two
the-
entrances to the baseball fields, right, Steve? Yeah, but it has to put it near the entrance. Show me where the entrance is.
Okay. I mean, we
So
can-
on Fairview. No, not there.
Not.
Yeah. So it's over there where your finger is now.
Yeah. Okay. So to be
So it's
Is there a motion to authorize Public Works and a direction to Public Works to create the handicap parking spaces as described by the mayor? Moved by Trustee Namdar and seconded by Trustee Hope. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it unanimously. Trustee Namdar, my apologies.
The next item on the agenda is a request from the Great Neck Civic Association to form a tree committee.
Okay.
nothing to say about it.
Tree committee. Tree committee.
You can talk about it.
You want to?
Well, I feel like we have a process in place already for trees. I mean, Len, when someone makes an application to cut a tree, do you see that application?
I don't particularly see it, but somebody goes out to look and see that the tree has a reason to be taken down. We just don't give them permission to take down trees.
And I know when an application goes before the ARC, if a proposed change or house goes up on, and the footprint of that new change will get rid of a tree, the builder is required to plant another, or actually two, if possible. If not, if the property cannot house that many trees, but there's always a replacement. So I'm not sure, since we have a process in place, why there's the need for this.
Rebecca Rosenblatt-Gilliar. Effectively, there isn't what anyone would call a process in place. What's in place is that an applicant goes to the building department and says, I want to do X, Y, and Z. There aren't trees. I don't know if they specify the sizes of those trees, but the onus is placed on, I guess, Mr. Barron, or sometimes it's Dennis Vermigia, one person to go out and make a decision on a tree. But the committee, and by the way, I don't know if you realize, since I'm not really sure how this board functions all the time, but there are villages that have tree committees. This idea wasn't born out of the head of Zeus.
Which
This is a-
villages?
I know that there are several in Port Washington. I'm pretty sure there's one in Roslyn. This is not a brand-new idea.
Do we have any in this
Wait.
peninsula?
No, I don't remember the
Does
names
this,
of it.
does the park and the
So
school
I
have?
think what, I'm sorry.
Do the school and the park have these committees?
The park has specialists on trees. They
Right,
hire
we-
them.
Right, so I think we do the same if we need.
Except that Mr. Barron and Mr. Famigio,
No, we have
neither one
arborists.
of
We have
them
village
would tell
arborists.
you they're tree specialists.
No, but we do have arborists that go out if they need to. If the tree does, I tell you, having the experience of cutting trees, our village is known to be very strict with allowing any trees to come down unless there's an absolute need. Either it's dangerous or because it's dead
Or 'cause of
or
construction.
because of the construction. So it's not, I don't think.
Close to the house and it's damaging.
Right, so it's right. So I don't think to add a layer to the government to just have more people coming in and commenting of trees to be removed is necessary, especially if our village is already known to be very strict. So I don't know where this came from and why we need to do this. Has there been a lot of trees being cut?
Apple pie, it was a good idea. And why don't you ask the two people that you have for building people? We don't actually
But
have.
right, you're right. But the things, as you said, we got elected to make these decisions. We can ask them, but we can.
Ask them if they think a tree committee with Mr. Barron and 3 residents on it somehow impedes the village or improves it.
Go talk to them. We can talk to them.
I can have a discussion with them afterwards.
About a year ago, there were some trees that I saw being removed not far from my home on Beach Road. It was village property. And I stopped Louis and I asked him, I said, why are these being taken down? He and Barry, one of his men, they showed me. They pointed out the roots. They dug up the portions of the trunk that had been decayed. And they said that it was a danger. And, so, I mean, it's...
I think that you're missing the point, so I'm going to say this. This is not
I don't think I'm
dedicated,
missing
this
it.
idea is not dedicated to finding dead trees or not finding dead trees or changing the way the decisions are made. It's perhaps the same trees would be cut down and the same trees would not be cut down. The issue is that trees in our village are a controversial issue. What you do is, like you did with your Citizens Advisory Committee, maybe, you have a committee that is an intermediary group with some specialty and some not, just citizens representing citizens. And that means it isn't one person going out, should there be a tree to look at, a 42-inch tree, for example. There was a real problem on Steamboat Road with a 42-inch in diameter tree being cut down, and all the neighbors around were in an uproar about it. And the process...
Why was it being cut down?
Say it again?
Why was it being cut down?
Because a new house was going up. And I actually went to the zoning board and spoke about that house coming down. It had to. I mean, it was necessary to build on that corner. And there was no way the house was going to be built without the tree coming down. But because it was a 42-inch tree, it became a controversy that you never saw. Out of that came the idea of a tree committee, which then makes it easier for the village to say, not only did our building department inspector or the head of our building department make a decision about this tree, but there were 3 people who are residents of the community who could be asked 1, 2, or 3 at a time. They go along with it, it becomes a non-controversy. I think you're missing the point of the committee.
I think you're missing the point that in this village, a lot of things become controversy, and I don't think you can solve that by adding layers to the government. Now, BZA can overrule that committee. BZA can overrule our committee. So if the BZA
No, I'm
believes...
not asking for the committee to have decision
No,
making.
but the thing is,
if you
there's...
read the letter carefully, it said Len Barron's the decision maker.
Right, but I personally don't see, because we have all these layers already in existence, ARC, Planning Board, BZA, and our board, when it comes to the swimming pools, which we don't get that many. We had one, I think, once that we had. I don't think to have another layer is going to add anything. It's just anything is going to create more controversy.
There was no discussion about the trees on that property at the BZA, none. The discussion was about the building. how big, how wide, how close to the side yard setback, the rear yard setback. Everything that was discussed was about the building, but there was no discussion about the trees.
Did any
There
of the
should be.
neighbors,
Pardon?
did any of the neighbors who were at this meeting say something about that tree?
Neighbors that, well,
Well,
I
no,
don't know if
because you
did the
said that there were
200-foot
representatives.
notification. I have no idea how you handled it. I don't live near it.
We didn't handle, it wasn't us.
It wasn't us.
No, I understand that, but you made the statement that there were people that there were neighbors who were concerned about a 42-inch tree being
Right, they
taken
were
down.
They
all
were concerned when it
neighbors.
was being taken down. They probably did not come to the
Thank you.
meeting
I see.
when it was
Okay.
discussed.
They were watching the tree come down, and
Mhm.
then more and more people gathered in the street.
Mhm.
Eventually, we became aware that people were gathering in the street, watching this, I'm gonna say, easily off the top of my head, a 40-foot tree that's 42 inches in diameter, with a guy in a harness way up there, cutting down parts of the tree. And everybody looking at it and saying, my gosh, we lost 1,000 trees in the microburst. How are we cutting down trees like this? The answer is, you have 3 residents working with Mr. Barron, assuming he would agree, because I didn't assume
Well, I
his
think you
agreement.
should ask that if you speak to them, you should say that we have 5.
Holidays, so then some of them are the parkings are totally empty. But on the days that there are regular business hours and the regular days, as you could see, there are no cars parked at all on the south side, or maybe there are one or maximum of two car parked. So if this request be approved, it will be very much appreciated by the businesses.
Where are these parking spots you're talking about?
It's right in
South of Colony, next to Colony.
Colony Pharmacy.
Yeah.
Next to it, there's a municipal parking lot,
Right.
6.
Right.
And there are 7 spots currently available for permitted parking, which is for the days during 7 to 7, 7 in the morning to 7 in the afternoon,
For employees of the
for employees
of the businesses.
of the businesses. And then from the 7 at night to 7 in the morning is for the residents to park.
Let me ask you, there is a parking right south of that is a private parking.
Correct.
Have they approached that owner to see if he's willing to rent the spots to them?
They have not, but they have parked there illegally. And a couple
They've been
months
towed.
ago, I'm sorry?
They've been towed.
Yes, they have been towed. And that was the day that all of them came for the spot. And unfortunately, we did not have enough permitted parking spot to give them.
Do you think it's a better idea to speak to him first and see if he's willing to?
We can, but it's not a permanent solution.
It's not a permanent solution. I don't know when he's going to come up with any, what he wants to do with the empty spots. But for now,
I have a
or you just want to go ahead and just give him 3?
I have a problem with asking the private owner to do that when we anticipate that private owner may come to us to request certain, things for his property.
No, we can ask him to ask.
Yeah. So,
No,
so I just.
We already have a relationship with that individual on the other parking lots behind Greenwood.
Oh, he's the owner of those.
He owns, that's his building.
Mhm.
He owns the lot. There's we'll call it it's not intermunicipal, but there's an interplay relationship of who owns which spots and who's parking where. So the village does have a relationship with that individual.
I mean, if you feel comfortable speaking with him and seeing if he'd be interested in renting the spots.
Not us.
What?
The businesses.
To the businesses, not us, right? To the businesses.
He's always interested in
Yeah.
making money.
So,
Yeah, but it has to also make sense. I don't know how much we're charging.
We are charging only $15 a month. I don't think if he's going to be willing to give it to them for $15 a month per spot.
that's true.
All we're saying is we're serving as a conduit, yes? We're
Yes.
simply
Asking.
If Abraham tells me who these businesses are, I can
Well,
put them together.
Colony has usually, they have at least 4 or 5 employees, as well as the sign place, sign of VIP.
No, in Benny's. Benny's.
Okay.
The barbershop.
Benny's already getting it 2 employees.
Mm-hmm.
Fine, then no harm in, no
We,
harm in
we could
asking.
ask, and if we need them, we could always, we could
does
approve
it make
it.
sense to charge only 50? I mean, I don't know how long we've been charging $15 a month. I mean, $15 a month, that's 50 cents a day.
No, but it's
It's
daytime
not a matter of
parking.
making money for the village. It's a
not
matter of the
that, but you know,
convenience for the for the employees
True.
of the businesses in
So
the village.
put it this way: if we believe that that place will not be needed for the customers, because you don't want to hear from the customers saying that they can't find parking anymore.
It's very
because all those places
bad
are taken.
intersection.
That's why I have all the pictures there. As you could see, at least twice a day, the parking enforcement took picture of the south side at least to show that there's either it's totally empty or there's only one or maximum of 2 cars parked. So even there are 7 spots, even we converted to 4 of them, we'll still have 3 more available for public to park for 2 hours, I believe. I'm not sure if it's a 90 minutes limit or a 2-hour limit. And there's the street parking as well available. Also, please notice some of these businesses now they park across the street in a CVS parking lot.
Yeah.
Does CVS ever,
Well, the CVS does they don't enforce it, but
I know it's not right.
it's not right for
They
them.
also like to stop in the no stopping area just to the north of the building,
Mm-hmm.
which is actually rather dangerous.
Yeah.
3 is fine.
3.
So this would be from 7 AM to 7 PM? Is that what the request is?
It will be permanent, not permanently, but if we convert it to a permitted parking, then no one else can park. 7 to 7 during the day will be employee parking. 7 to 7 at night will be resident parking. But they must have permit to
Park overnight.
park on those spots.
Okay.
So we're adding resident parking as well.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So
No,
you
that's
can't-
good.
But currently, I don't believe anyone parks there for resident, as far as the residents for overnight.
Yeah, who's
At
the
6.
closest
We do have?
resident?
The
Okay, so-
only- it's 444. It's 444, but
444 has an overflow.
but the only danger in that and the fact that I think Yarush might rent spots to them as well,
I believe he does.
is that you have people crossing Middle Neck Road in the middle of that street with strollers and whatnot. It's a mess.
You can ask Temple Beth Elderman's.
Yeah, we could. I have no problem with renting the 3 spots to the businesses.
What are the
That's
hours
ano-
of that business, do we know?
Which one, Colony?
Yeah.
They usually open
When
8
do they
to
close
8.
it? Oh, 8 to 8?
I
Because
believe
if
so. I don't
we're-
know the
If we're
exact.
giving hours that are 7 to 7, then it doesn't,
That's for them to figure out.
You're right. You know, as of now, the Colony, for example, already has 4 employees that they do get, I believe, as well as the nail salon, as well as Benny's has 2.
8:30 to 8.
Is the discount is
The discount,
dollar
I believe,
store,
uses the file.
the nothing
lane
under a
before.
dollar store. Yeah.
It's interesting because they never used to, employees never used to come for permits prior to.
That is because they did not get towed when they parked on the free.
Okay, there you go.
It was free before. Okay.
Right.
All right. I still would like to discuss the $15 a month.
Is there a motion to approve the addition of permit parking as proposed by Mr. Cohen?
oh, well, actually, is there a time frame that we're looking at this now? Like, is this, are we doing it for just a few months to see how it works out? Are we doing
These are
this-
month-to-month spots, so we could
These
change
are
it.
month-to-month spots, so if they're not utilized, maybe in 3 months or 4 months or after winter time, we can just take it away.
We could change it.
Okay,
So
okay, so it's a limited time.
The only thing is, are we going to paint them a different color, or can we just write?
Yes, the permitted parkings are colored either red or green. I'm not sure exactly which one is which, but I've spoken to Louis, and he has confirmed as long as they are not in the middle spots, on the 10 middle spots, as you could see, as long as you're on the south side, he can put signs as well as painted that they are permitted parking.
At the same time, isn't there a concrete issue over there? Something has to be.
Right.
They-
On the north side, I
The,
think
yes,
somebody.
there, the vendor has been notified. I have spoken to Louis about this. Vendor has been notified. it's on the schedule to be fixed. I don't have the exact date, but they know about it, and just
Yeah.
2 weeks ago they fixed the potholes in the same parking lots.
Really, that is also, I don't know what happened to the car. That was
Well,
a
if
big
we
hit.
had something to can see who hit it, maybe we could use the person's insurance to pay for it. But unfortunately, there's no record of it or anything. But it's certainly on the schedule to be fixed.
I do encourage the businesses to have more of a surveillance around them, just for, especially for things like this. Also, I'm sure people, not that we're on topic of this, there was an incident that happened, I think, about 2 weeks ago, where a person, um, they called it an older woman who pulled in front of a kid, I believe a 12-year-old kid, and asking for the kid to get on the car, and she picked up her phone and made a phone call. Obviously, that created a huge stir in the community. I do believe in better surveillance. I know that that was a hot topic before when we were putting the LED lights. People thought that they're going to be spied on. But this is something that's going on in many cities and villages. Kings Point has it. I do believe that at least we need to have plate readers, or at least think about them, discuss it in Nassau County and the town of North Hempstead and other villages to see if we can come up with something that is going to enhance our security, because our kids are the most precious things that we have, and to even think about what could happen to this kid is scary. I spoke to the police department, and they said if they did have a plate reader, it would be a lot easier, obviously, to detect and find out what the car was. So I'm throwing it out there. I'm hoping that the board consider this to be discussed in the near future.
Here also I want to mention there is a plate reader going toward Kings Point
on East Shore Road.
Yes.
No,
on
the
the
Station
Station
Road.
Road.
There's one on that side, but there's so many different entrances in the village.
And
Right.
Beach Road.
Beach Road has a
Like
plate
where
reader?
your house.
There's a
There
plate
is?
reader?
Absolutely. If you go from Beach Road from your house toward the towards Polo, there's a
Oh, there's a camera, but I didn't realize that was a plate
oh
reader.
yeah,
Ooh,
a plate reader over
that's
there.
good to know.
Yeah.
I didn't know it's
Is there a motion then to approve the permitted parking as recommended by Mr.
For
Cohen?
3 slots.
For 3 spots.
Yes. So moved.
Moved by Trustee Sobel, seconded by Trustee Hope. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the ayes have it unanimously. Mr. Cohen, the next item on the agenda is the opioid litigation issue.
I believe that was discussed already.
Yes, pursuant to advice of counsel, I think there's certain portions I'll be able to spread on the public record. The board will recall that I have provided writing and advice of counsel in connection with what is widely known in the newspapers now as the opioid litigation. There are certain class actions pending. This village, along with most of the villages on Long Island with which I'm acquainted, have received a notice of class action proposed settlement, and with the option to either opt out and file a separate claim or to stay in the litigation.
Just to clarify, our village as a class action plaintiff, not as a class action defendant.
That is correct. Virtually every municipality, every municipal entity in the country is named as a class member in litigation against the manufacturers and distributors of opioids, and you have a choice between staying in that class action or opting out of that class action. It is a matter of public record that the court has modeled how much money would be distributed to the different municipalities under a sample billion-dollar settlement. Now, we don't know that the settlement will settle at all, or what will settle for $10 or $100 billion. We don't have that knowledge. But the court did sanction a $1 billion modeling. Under that modeling, a Great Neck would get the enormous sum of $1,800. But it's entirely possible that the amount could be more or less.
We could use that for the Manhasset Bay Jews.
Nevertheless, based on the advice that I gave this board, I believe this board would entertain a motion to opt out of the class action to retain a special counsel of the law firm of Tate, Grossman, Kelly, and Iacarino LLP, known as TGKI, and on a contingent fee basis, providing for no outlay of funds by this village, but only a contingent fee based on a recovery. And if that motion is to be made to authorize the mayor to execute that retainer agreement. Moved by trustee Namdar, seconded by trustee Hope. Any discussion on that motion?
I just wanted to make sure that this is not going to cost the village a penny.
That is correct.
Yep.
Except with the possibility of staff time.
Right.
Aye.
In other words, if there was discovery.
Yes, this would be a motion to opt out of the class action and retain the law firm to pursue a separate claim.
Right.
Right.
Moved.
That motion having been moved and seconded, any discussion on that motion?
Nope.
Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it unanimously.
That's that.
I did advise the board in executive session that our firm will have a role in that litigation, but we will not be charging the village an hourly rate. Instead, what we will do is make a fee-sharing arrangement with the firm that is handling the major part of the litigation. Again, I'm not expecting that that's going to be any enormous sum, but I do think that it is the proper direction for the village. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we do opioid, before we do abstracts and public comments, could we just have one last executive session?
Sure.
On two points. All right, thanks. Regarding contract as executive session, right? Not advice against.
abstract? Annie?
I just had one little,
Sitting on your-
that's
okay,
okay.
fine.
And this was a small thing, I just wanted to know what it stood for. This one, I didn't know what it was, that's all.
Oh, it's this. It's right here.
Oh, okay.
What is that?
It's a dongle,
It's to
it's an adapter.
convert the HDMI so my computer can connect to.
Ah, okay.
Okay,
It's
that's all I wanted to know. So
I got a staple actually brand, so it would be much cheaper than brand name.
Thank you. I think there was the fiscally prudence of here.
Well, evidently figured out I'm watching with his money.
Oh, there was one item that I couldn't find.
Was the AXA?
No, it was TRUX. It said monthly premium. I couldn't find it among the, there it is. I couldn't find it among the receipts. It could be, maybe it was,
That's probably miss. Oh, here's it's 481.
Is it-
481.80. So they put it wrong. Here they put AXA. On here they put a wrong name. That's the same.
oh,
amount.
so that was the exact same
Yes,
one?
that's-
So what is that for?
This is life insurance.
Oh.
AXA is life insurance.
Oh, so it's not TRUX?
It's not.
Okay.
It has to be fixed.
Okay.
But the amount is correct.
Okay.
The
So I'll just sign it.
The vendor is wrong.
Okay. So I make a motion to accept the abstract.
A motion by trustee Mendelson to approve the abstracts, seconded by trustee Namdar. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the ayes have it unanimously. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Public comments? Yeah, Jean?
So we don't go into it again, but just to comment on that, tree committee. We actually did have a tree committee 15 years ago, and it was residents and Mayor Kreitzman at the time. And the residents got together and decided on what kind of trees would enhance the village, etc. So we did have one, and it worked out pretty good.
That I like. I
Yeah.
mean, if you have a group of people
Oh,
that
I'm
would
not,
say...
I'm not in this. I just
No, but
wanted
I'm
you
just
to
saying,
know
so
we
there's a
did have
difference,
one.
there's a difference between a tree committee deciding which trees
Yeah,
to
it was
come
less
down.
than 15 years ago. I was around for that, and
Yeah.
and it was deciding on which trees to plant
Well,
where.
nice. And Elizabeth
And we had a
and
couple
I
of
went
meetings.
on,
We met at your house, I believe.
Robin Gordon's.
Robin Gordon's house.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And,
So,
you know,
Gene,
we,
as far as that goes, I think that's a good idea to have people saying, because I do believe that whenever, let's say 50, 100 years ago, the trees that were planted in our section were planted in the wrong places. I'm not saying that they're beautiful trees, but the thing is, many of them are planted in the wrong place, and that's why we have a lot of problems with our sidewalks. These sidewalks are extremely dangerous, and you can't really do much unless you really cut those trees, which is very painful to do. But at times, and for the safety of people, we may have to do that. So I do agree with those people coming to our board and saying which trees they believe need to be planted. I don't think we have an issue. I personally don't have an issue with it.
I wasn't going to get into it.
Okay, I'm just letting you know. There's a difference
No, but
between
it was not the same exact
I
kind of
know,
committee
yeah.
that
Was being
Ms.
proposed.
Gilliar
It was worded the same way.
was suggesting.
Okay,
It worked out pretty good at
I
that.
think I was on that committee.
okay.
Yeah, me too. Okay. Have you made any appointments yet? 'Cause the
No, we're
election
going
is
to
in
hopefully
June.
make the appointments the next meeting, because this was
Oh,
late.
I'm not here.
Oh, well, you can see it over on the internet. I'm sure where you go, you can get an internet.
I'll be working the election. I won't have time
Ah,
to
okay.
be on the internet. What is being done at next to 7-Eleven? Do they have any funds to finish that temple? What is going? It's been going on for years now, and it's really an eyesore with the garbage. It's an eyesore. And
I mean,
are
we
they
can
going to
ask,
finish
I
it?
don't know, first of all, you're asking if they have funds to finish it. It's not a simple question, it's not a question to ask me. I mean, that's a question we can ask them if they have the funds to finish. We don't check their funds. They started, I believe they did get their permits before we came, and they were back and forth
Yeah,
doing
they
it.
had
I
some
don't know
lovely
if
design
they
we
stopped
finally
working because of the holidays or they stopped
no,
working
no,
because
no,
of the
no.
funding.
No,
Len?
It's funding, I believe.
it's not the holidays. This has gone on for years,
Okay.
but it's really an eyesore.
I mean, as far as the garbage goes, I think we really have to make sure that place is cleaned up.
They should clean up.
Okay.
Are they paying any, do they pay any monthly carrying costs to sit with their property? Because that would give them no incentive to finish if they weren't.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if they.
The permit should have expired long ago.
Long ago.
It may have been
It's about
renewed, but
enforcement at
I
this
will
point.
check it.
I thought it was renewed last
Any
year.
update on Pizza Rocks? One?
There's no
Opening
reason-
soon?
there's no reason
I
for
heard
it.
they're opening soon.
They got approved by
That's
the
what the
fire
sign
marshal.
The sign says opening soon.
They got approved by the fire marshal.
About 3 years.
Yeah, I think they got their gas connected.
But don't they have to do the sidewalk?
They have to do the sidewalk, yes.
Because I haven't seen any movement in
Did
that
they
area.
come to you yet for the sidewalk?
Dennis has been talking to them, so.
Yeah, one of the owners been in, he's been in a couple times.
I wasn't talking about the pizza place.
No.
Anyway, okay.
Well,
the
then it
next
came up.
one-
He
the
asked
next
about a
one
pizza
is
place.
The 733 building, what is happening there? That's a really bad eyesore. What are they going to be doing there? And you've got children, you talk about children's safety, you've got little children living above that. practically
Right, so
above
I
the
think this is something
building.
that we discussed last meeting. You looked into the situation.
I have not been in the apartments, I have been in the hall, and, I mean, as far as safety, they had lights, they had a smoke detector, the hall was clear of storage, I mean, these are the things that
But
we.
look, you saw the back of that place.
Look,
That
the building
building
is
is-
not, I stopped in and talked to the shoemaker, because
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that he had heat. And so, and then we spoke to Rabbi Shentel, and told him maybe he has to provide heat. And as far as I know, they have heat upstairs, they have running water, they may have a big family up there, but I have not been in, I can't tell if
But
it's
what's
a
gonna
slum.
be happening to the site? Is it just gonna stay like that?
That site will come down eventually. He's in the
Eventually.
process of filing for a new building.
It just doesn't look good at that end, that whole block, it's,
Well, they have applied. I'm hoping that Nassau County will come back soon with their recommendations and we can move on it.
okay, that's it.
Yes.
Good evening.
Name and address, please.
My name is Edward Cordmani. I live on 38 Polar Road. I'm here to talk about the noise pollution from Great Neck North High School,
Okay.
which has been going on ever since I've lived there. I've been there over 18 years. And I have spoken to many officials over the years. Nothing permanent has been done. I've been given many assurances that at least the cleaning crew of the Great Neck North High School is going to abide by the same rules as that is imposed on the homeowner taxpayer by the village. For example, no work to be done prior to 8 o'clock on weekdays and prior to 9 o'clock on weekends. Now, I can vouch personally hundreds of times where this cleaning crew comes in 7 o'clock, even sooner, and starts putting on their earphones and using high gas-powered blowers to blow the leaves or the snow or have some kind of masonry, fix the chicken compass on the roof. Usually there's some pet project on Saturdays. Extremely irritating. I have no peace and quiet. I had spoken to the previous principal, Mr. Kaplan, the vice principals. A lot of people give me their reassurances, and the whole thing begins within a few days, all over again. And this cleaning crew I'm right across the school, and if it rains, they come 7 in the morning with high gas-powered blowers uh, to in the name of public safety and disregard all village rules for when to start work. I understand it's their job to clean and maintain the school, but there's got to be some civility and some, I'm entitled to some peace and quiet, aren't I? We, the neighbors, the taxpayer. So I'm begging the village, if there's anything in your power, to have a communication with them and at the very least abide by the same rules as everybody else has to follow the village rules.
All right.
Is that too much?
So I do appreciate your concern. I did contact the Board of Education President, Mrs. Barbara Barkowitz, and I spoke to her about your concern and a few other people's concerns. That since I believe they started the construction on the lot that is the parking, the proposed parking lot, a lot of the noise has been detected, and people have been complaining about these noises starting way before 8 o'clock. I did ask her, she did mention to us that they are not bound to our codes, that they have their own rules and regulations, but I did ask her that because people are really used to and they're expected to respect the 8 o'clock mark, if she can do and she can ask the workers to not start work before 8 o'clock on the weekdays and 9 o'clock on Saturdays, and Sundays they do not work. She assured me that she made that phone call, and these kind of works will not begin before 8 o'clock on the weekdays and 9 o'clock on Saturday. As far as the leaf blowing, one thing she mentioned is that the school starts at 8 or 8:15, I believe. 8. And for them to start doing the leaf blowing at 8 is going to disrupt the pickup and drop off, and possibly the kids walking around. So that's going to be a little bit difficult. So they do the leaf blowing early in the morning. That I don't know what she can do about it. I can tell you that I can discuss it with her if anyone has a suggestion. Again, I don't live. I understand how annoying it could be. The leaf blowers are extremely.
Can I say something?
Yes.
The least of my problems is the paving of the road. The paving of the road, which is a one-time occurrence every 10 years, let's say, is much less disruptive to the ear than, than the high gas-powered blowers they use virtually every other day or every day. Maybe this can give you a demonstration of what I go through every day.
They do this every day?
In the fall.
In the fall, when the leaves come, yes. And
What time?
They have to do it before the kids come.
What time is that?
I have witnessed this happen many dozens of times over the years.
Did you ever
well
call?
before 8 o'clock in the morning.
Did you ever call did you ever go to any of the Board of Education meetings?
No.
No.
This is the first meeting, I think.
But
Deputy.
I spoke to Mr. Kurmai last week regarding this. I suggested.
He said to come, so I came.
I also suggested to contact the secretary to the Board of Education as well, and maybe to go to one of those meetings as well.
Again, you have to realize that fortunately, or maybe unfortunately, we don't really have an oversight when it comes to the school and what they can or cannot do. From what I can say, I did bring your concern and other residents' concern to her regarding the construction and also the leaf blowing. Her response to the leaf blowing was that it has to be done before a certain hour. Now, can it be done after a certain hour, after the kids go home? Can it be done at 4 o'clock? Maybe, I don't know. But that's something that you may want to discuss with the Board of Ed. They are the ones who instruct the crew to come in and what time they should or should not come. Listen, I feel your pain. I feel bad that you and your family have to go through this. But this again, is not. If it was our village doing it, we could obviously tell them not to. But it's not our village. But I do encourage you to go to the Board of Ed and ask them. Maybe you can come up with a solution. And I tell you, the best way of doing it is, if you tell them don't do it at this time, like many people come here and say, don't do this, and we ask them, what is it that you want to do? It's much easier for you to give them an answer or solution. So listen, you can do it at this time.
Gabriel, the cleaning crew sometimes comes in 6:30. Okay, this is not a life emergency that they have to clean the leaves at 6:30 or 7 in the morning. And when I go there in my pajamas on a rainy day, I said, I'm begging you, can you do this 1 or 2 hours later? My whole family is sleeping. Your instruments are causing my house to shake, let alone our peace and quiet. And they just couldn't care less what I say, how much I plead.
They are
couldn't care
paid
less.
to do a job. It's not, I mean, you should talk to the Board of Ed. Really, you should talk to the Board of Ed and tell them. Maybe they should come after 4 o'clock. I don't know what time the school is over, at 3 o'clock?
It's
3 o'clock.
over
That would
at
be
2:30.
fantastic.
Yeah, I would
That
say
would be
anytime
fantastic.
after 2:30 would be.
Because I don't think, what?
They're not gonna do that.
Why?
This is a safety issue. They come and they clean before the kids get there every day.
Because wet leaves are a
Because
hazard.
if you've got wet leaves that have blown down during the night, they're cleaning it off because they're liable if they don't do that. So they're basically obligated to follow the schedule.
So they should do it in the morning.
That is an imposition, but they're not going to say, no, we're not gonna do that, and then consciously accept the liability.
But they don't have to use all
But
this
in-
high-powered.
Yeah, can they use another instrument to remove
No, but
it?
also, you know what
Something
he
that's less,
showed.
There's nothing that.
No, wait.
nothing
What
that
he
was
showed,
rakes.
it was,
On
there were.
concrete.
I'm sorry, there were wet leaves or leaves on the grass.
On the grass.
Clean everything off.
No, but
I'm
I
just-
understand. If they're worried about safety, and again, I don't know what they're worried about. If that's the case, maybe they can clean off the leaves at 3 o'clock. I know then I don't really know the answer. I can't. I think the best thing is to really go to the board and ask them that maybe you want to get a petition of a bunch of people going there. It's like, listen, this is really causing significant, hazard for us.
They can lower those, they're supposed to, there's a law, but most of the landscapers don't do it. The blowers are supposed to be held at a certain height from the ground and on very low, and they just.
That is not the case.
Is that state?
That is not
No.
the case.
Is that a state law?
No,
They're not bound by village laws.
So there's one thing about the early in the morning routine, and then the decibel of they put earphone for themselves before they start the work. That's if you come with a decimal meter, I bet you it's over 100 decibels, the noise that they're making.
Is that against the state code?
We can have, over 60 decibels, we don't allow people to.
We
have-
don't, but the state is the one that they're bound to, not us. So I can't really. But they're not. Are they? I don't, they're bound by the state, not this, not the town, not the county, nothing. So unless the state states, the codes in the state code states that the decibel should not be above X amount, they're not bound by it. So you can say that you're 1,000 decibel. Is it a neighborly thing to do? Absolutely. But again, that's something you should bring up with them.
Okay. Just
All right.
want to note it for the record. Whatever you could do, I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
David Zlenziger, 15 Beach Road. I had a comment and a couple of questions. I wanted to comment Mr. Barron for taking quick action to get 22 Beach Road cleaned up, and I hope he can keep cars from parking on that property again that are apparently part of 26 Beach Road, and let's see what happens. I do want to know if he has, I've raised several times the question of the yeshiva at 307 East Shore Road and the houses on Ravine Road, including 26. And I'm just wondering, is anything more coming of that? Is there a thought that that institution will get an official permit? Have any other houses on Ravine or in that corridor, Ruth or Bly, been found to also be housing multiple dwellings?
As far as I know, there's only two houses, and regarding the yeshiva, they actually submitted a set of plans to me. They're going to, eventually, they will submit to the board for approval.
Okay, and in your inspection, have you seen anything that might endanger safety or public health?
I was up there, I checked the exits, I checked, they get an inspection by the fire marshal, they've been approved by the fire marshal, they have smoke detectors, they are in Central Station, it is a safe environment.
Okay, and I hope if there are any other houses in that area, that they also might be checked, because I consider it a problem if we're going to have these sort of quasi dormitories in single family residential areas.
David, I don't know of any others, I know of the two, and that's.
Okay, thank you. I hope you'll continue to follow up. Now, I had a question about the road repaving. Was there a reason why there wasn't a general notice to village residents before the roads were repaved, say, notice to the Great Neck Record or the Great Neck News or on the village website or other things? Because people really didn't know what was going on. First for the, I guess, the stripping of the asphalt, and then for the repaving. How come there was no notice about that in general?
I spoke to Louis Massaro, and the message, we're not doing our own, I'm sure you know, we're not doing our own paving or anything of that sort. It's an IMA that we have in the town of North Hempstead. They do coordinate with the village to see when they can come in. Apparently, from what I heard, that they gave a very late notice to Louis, and they start work soon after. They were supposed to actually finish on the Friday after the milling, and they had issues, and it couldn't happen, and it fell into the holidays. It was a whole back and forth of what they should do as far as people walking and driving to temples, and also what's going to happen to the school at Polo Road if they're going to do it when the school is in session. The decision was made to do, and again, these are all last-minute decisions, because when I found out about it, it was already, the milling was done. That's when I found out.
That's the whole point. Why weren't you advised? If the town was doing it, the town has ways of advising residents. I mean, it caused a lot of havoc.
You're absolutely right, and that's the question I had, and they said that there was a decision, that there was a last-minute decision of when it's going to happen, and that's why we were not notified. I was not notified. Louis was notified late, and that was the explanation I got. Am I happy about it? Absolutely not.
Well, I think it was a disaster, but I'm glad that the repaving is done. Do we have any idea?
I don't think it was a disaster. I mean,
well,
nothing
the way
bad
it was
happened.
handled caused a lot of, you just said,
listen,
for
it,
many.
it does.
It wasn't a disaster, David.
You see, David, when
it might have been an inconvenience for some people,
Right.
but it wasn't a disaster.
Do we have an idea when the restriping will be done?
I asked Louis, and Louis said they're going to get to it, I think, the moment they're done with certain things, because there's a different crew. So they're going to finish with this, and the next crew will come in and do the
Striping.
The striping. I don't know yet.
Well, do you think, I would hope then that if we do find out, that the residents just be notified, or put it up on the village website, or send notice to the two village weeklies so that people know about it. Okay, then I had another, we had earlier the discussion about safety, and I didn't want to disturb that, but we have a safety problem at Lot 1 at Middle Neck Road and Beach Road. I have noticed that there is no, on the south side, which is the entrance, and on the north side is the exit. There's no signs that say, enter and exit. The other day when I was driving west on the north side of the lot to go out onto Beach Road, a van came in from Middle Neck Road into the exit lane and then kind of squeezed past me in another car. I couldn't believe it. I'm wondering if we couldn't put a do not enter sign, at least at the north side of the lot,
Which one is that?
Beach Road and.
middle neck, lot number 1.
In other words, you know where the music center is? It's just
The
north
Great
of it.
Neck Music
So-
Conservatory is at the
Across the
south.
Aren't there
Across the
arrows?
street.
Are there
No.
arrows? No arrows?
There isn't. And now on the north side at least, there is a signpost that says no turn on red and so on. So we have a existing
Full.
board there. So I would imagine that a do not enter sign could be easily affixed there, and I think it would help. And perhaps on the south side, the side toward the Great Neck Music Conservatory, a sign that said entrance. Another thing, which may be my own kind of thing, but I've complained about this several times to the Great Neck Library. You folks may have noticed there's a tendency now in parking lots for people not to park head in. But there is some kind of thought now that people have to come in and back in so that the driver's side, the front side, is facing out. I don't understand why, but perhaps we could have a head-in parking only. Go drive there yourself, and you'll see that people are going in, and rather than parking head in, they're backing in.
Where?
In lot 1.
In lot 1.
There are 4 lanes to park. One sort of on a angular side by the Great Neck Music Conservatory, 2 in the middle. One sort of facing north, and just ordinary traffic flow. And
you're saying people back in, they don't go head in?
Yeah, that's what they do.
Okay.
I'm not making this up.
No,
You
but
see it
what?
yourself.
So
It's completely nuts, and it's also very unsafe, especially from the Great Neck Music Conservatory, where you have parents are bringing kids or people. I mean, perhaps we should have a head-in parking sign there.
maybe I'm not following. Why do you need to have head in only and not back in? What difference does it make?
Well, it doesn't matter to me, but the point is that people shouldn't be allowed to back in.
Why?
Because I think it's very unsafe.
Why?
Mayor, here on our lot, right here, we have a couple of spots for cars to park, and everyone is parked head in.
But why is it unsafe to go?
Because they're parking in the lot, then they're kind of backing in, and traffic is coming forward, and someone is reversing against traffic there.
So in other words, if he's pulling out and he's backed
Are you
in,
talking about the
he
middle?
has to make
Are you
a hard
talking
Yes,
right.
The middle
particularly,
spots?
but it's all sides.
The middle spots people pull in, and if they pull all the way through to the other side, they're
Well,
not backing
I noticed that, but I just think where they're going to park, say you're parking east, so park right on that angle or park on that other
I
angle.
tell you know
But
what,
what they're
David,
doing
I
is
tell
they
you-
are stopping and reversing.
I tell you why they probably do that. I think the issue is the entrance and exit sign. If people come in, for example, from the north side, and they make a left or they make a right into the north entrance, which you say should be the exit, and they turn around and go that way, it's very difficult to go head into one of those. What they need to do, they go straight and
So
they
may
back
have to,
in.
May have to do with the first point you brought up, is what the mayor
Yeah, I think if you go ahead and put in the entrance and exit, it's going to be so darn difficult to back into those slots.
Okay.
So I think the moment you go in, it's much easier to go and head in. I still don't think, I think when you go back in, it's going to be safer when you come out because you see what's coming at you.
I understand. No,
But-
Mayor, I understand that. But the point is, it's almost, let's say, it's counterintuitive. And while the vehicle is sort of backing out into the oncoming traffic, I believe that it provides that it presents a hazard.
So you're saying that? So you should be saying that they should not do head in. They should do back in.
No,
Because
I
then
would
they
say,
can see what-
I would recommend that we put a sign up that just says head in parking only. We see that in many institutions.
I understand, but then it goes against your logic because then you say when you're backing out, that's when you're backing out to the traffic and you don't see what's coming at you.
Well, a careful driver will back up and take.
You and I
precaution.
know by now that there's no careful driver.
Well,
it's so late.
Okay. All right. All right. Motion to adjourn. Thank you.